Welcome to Adaptive Care Provider Software. This is a revision full video of the training for our medication counting that has been revised as of July 2025. And so to get started, you simply log into your location that you're going to be working on. And of course you close out any of your windows. Next, let's go ahead and select our client that we want to set up a medication and counting for. And I'm going to come down and go into Medication Services and Care. And now I am going to create a scheduled medication. And that medication then, we will add counting to it. Now I have created a very simple medication, filling in only the required fields. And the medication name is, just for clarity, this medication is 1 dose 0 milligrams and will be counted as a scheduled medication. And we have scheduled select here. Our options of course are, it could be a PRN medication. And or both. In this case, we're going to display scheduled for this example. We will explain the rest in another section. I've set this medication to be administered at 1:00 p.m. And I'm going to insert the record. Okay, with that record inserted now, we have a single medication and what I'm going to do is click on Edit. And when we come back into Edit, we're going to go over and select Track Inventory. And the first thing that we do after that is we have to establish a reorder point. And because this is a scheduled medication, potentially ongoing, I'm going to set a reorder point of 15. And I'm going to set a dose of 1 per med pass. And because we are modifying any medication, anytime we do that, this is a discontinuation of the previous version of the medication and it is a new version of the medication that we are editing. So we're just going to simply put no and C for no comment. Our schedule is set for 1:00 and we click on Add Track Inventory. Now that we have selected Track Inventory, our medication inventory record is coming up. And let's go ahead and let's receive our medication that has come in, and if you put 0, that's fine. If you put, let's say that 100 of these have come in and we're going to receive that, and let's add 75 of these to overstock. And in this case, because it's not a PRN, no note is required in here. But we'll save that anyways. And now we have our medication set up to count and we have the inventory set up in there. And so the next thing that we're going to do, let's make sure we're on our same medication. Now we see we have our counting added in here. For the counting, what we're going to do is, let's take our first option is count as administered. It's going to come in at 1:00. We don't want to enter any information into any of the other fields because when the medication is passed, that's the time that we want to count it. We click on Save Schedule and now the Save Schedule is saved for us. And even though you can't see, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to close this up. Now, you could have used any of the other scheduling options and times available. This is just a matter of showing you the steps to get through setting up, counting a single standalone medication. With our medication now set up and with everything as expected, we are going to go to Med Admin Charting. And here is our medication we have set up. When I click on that, our window comes up. Now we had set 75 as our inventory and 25 are in use. The system has identified that you have just passed a medication, so you are now down to 24. Select 24 medications and no note is required because it is not a PRN, and we click Save Dose and Chart. This medication has now been charted. We can go into our inventory. And we can verify our inventory in use is 2475 in inventory overstock. Total 99 medications. Next, we're going to set up a medication that is both PRN and scheduled. So we'll go into JAX Medication Services here and let's create a medication that is both. So I have created some sample medications and in this case, I have called it both PRN and scheduled medication with counting added. And we have selected both at the top of the form here, and I have also indicated a scheduled time to pass this medication of 12 o'clock p.m. With that, we will go ahead and insert our record. Now that the record has been inserted, we see that it is available as a scheduled medication and it is also available as a PRN medication. Now this is what we are going to call the parent-child relationship. We are going to go to the parent medication and click on Edit. And in this case, we have both already selected. We are going to click on our track inventory. With the track inventory selected, and the selection of both PRN and scheduled medication, we have the option here now to merge our medication inventory into a single container or single source inventory of medication. By selecting that. If we don't select that, the track inventory will be set up with a container or inventory for each, one for the PRN and one for the scheduled medication. So let's take a look at that process where we have two counting inventories set up here. What we need to do is we need to enter in our reorder point if it exists, and we're going to set that at 20, and we're going to set our dosage at 1 just for sample simplicity's sake, and no comment needed here. Medication discontinuation note, we've already covered that one. It is scheduled at 12 o'clock p.m. It is also a PRN medication. So what we wanna point out is that now we have two medication inventories set up for this medication. And one of them is scheduled and shows the time, and in the second case, it is indicated as a PRN. So what we are going to do, I have already gone ahead and entered in the 100 total, and I put 75 into overstock and 25 in use for the schedule. And now I am going to do the same thing for our PRN inventory starting point. And let's just set that at 100 as a generic number, and again, I am going to say 75 are into overstock. And you can always move from overstock, you can always move into regular inventory. Okay, so now we have our inventories that are all set. And we have counting set up on our PRN version of this and also on our regular version. So let's go take a look at charting. And I'm going to come in here, and now I can chart on both PRN, and when I select that, our first window comes up and it tells us that this medication has been no records found for when it was charted last. So it's safe to give that as a PRN if it comes down to it. And the next thing is, we show our inventory of, okay, we just gave one out. So we have a manual count of 24 left over on hand. And we're gonna chart dose and save. And that medication is now charted. Now later in the afternoon, let's say that we went ahead and requested a PRN be given. So in that case, the same thing will happen. Our notice of when this medication was last passed will come up. And we can review that, make sure it's safe, and being that it is, we now have 24 of the PRN medications in stock. And this one requires a note because it is a PRN, so you will put your note in, you will chart your dose and save. Okay, so now we have effectively created a separate inventory for each of the medications, PRN and a scheduled medication. Next, let's take another look at another option. Continuing on with our client Jack Barnes. And we're going to go into medication services and care. And in this case we're going to create a both PRN medication and a scheduled medication, but in this example we are going to schedule both of these to be counted from one single point of inventory. And I'll show you how this works. Okay. So we're creating this medication as both PRN and scheduled medication from a single point of inventory. So I'm going to put some placeholders in here under the required fields, and I'm going to set this up for 3 o'clock p.m. We are going to come down and save this record again. Now with the record saved, we have both PRN, and I am going to edit this medication. Now I am going to add track inventory. And because we want to count this from a single source of inventory, we are going to select Merge Inventory. Now let's add our reorder point of 20 because that's just a good number and a dosage of 1. It's all just a sample and this is going to happen at 3:00 p.m. Of course, you can enter and use any of these advanced scheduling options to get to the timing that you need. Okay. So now what you see is both PRN scheduled medication from a single point of inventory. And you will read, when that is an identifier that I put in there, a label I put in there. So it's going to change based on what you name the medication, so for clarity, what we will do is add 100 into this one and receive it. Let's put 75/50 into our overstock and hit save. Hit save a second time and now you've got it there. Okay, let's close that out. Now let's go back and let's schedule that one in. And you can tell that a medication has not been scheduled completely, the type of scheduling you want, based on the box around the arrows or lack of there in this case. Here we are going to come over here to this medication. Again we are going to count as administered. And we are going to save schedule. Now every time that medication is administered, either PRN or scheduled, it is going to come from the same inventory. So let's just go back and check. First of all, med charting. And let's take a look at our inventory. And right now we have both scheduled medication from a single point of inventory and we are showing 50 in use. I will go ahead and close that out and now let's go ahead and check this one here. We are going to pass this one and again it's a PRN so it gives you the medication history. Before you pass that medication and now it assumes that you have passed it and that you are at an inventory level of 49. So let's save that. Okay, and the next thing that would potentially happen is that in the next coming hours, somebody would say I need that medication so I want to have it. So here comes our medication history notification window. And this indicates that the medication was just passed at 10:58 a.m. We are going to close that and the next thing is our medication inventory is now reduced down to 48 because we have passed it twice. So, it's a PRN medication, it will require a note as to why it was passed for our charting records. So we'll click this twice to chart dose and save. And now we have successfully charted to a single inventory. Let's verify that when we come into our inventory. And here is our merged inventory. In use is down to 47, overstock 50. Total on hand 97. That's just perfect.